Welcome to Eventful Endeavors, secrets to crafting the perfect celebration. If you're planning an event and looking for useful tips from industry experts, you're in the right place. So get ready to take some notes and we'll dive right in. This is Eventful Endeavors.
Hey, what's up? It's Matt from Felix and Fingers, and today we've got Sarah Keeker from Plum Poppy on the podcast. Sarah, what's going on?
Just starting wedding season, getting busy.
Yeah, 'tis that time of year in Indiana, is it not?
Yeah, it's always fun to dive back in. So I'm excited for it to get started.
That's awesome. Are there any extra special, I should say, events in specific you're looking forward to?
This Friday is actually one of them. It's the highest cost per person wedding I will have ever done. So it's pretty over the top. So many really fun details we have spent all this time and energy planning that I'm super excited to see come to life. So
Where's it
lots of
going to be?
extra special details. It's at Hotel Carmichael. Yeah, it's at Hotel
Wow.
Carmichael, which they're incredible there. So always love being in their space and just a lot of really extra fun, tiny little details. And that's my favorite stuff. So super excited to watch all that come together for the sweetest bride. She's awesome. So really excited.
Cool. Tiny little details. That is really what it's all about, right? What they're going to remember and things like that.
Yeah, it helps make it personal. That's all the stuff that takes it from just anybody's wedding to only these people's wedding. And it's really fun. So um, I'm there on Friday. And then on Sunday, we have a wedding at Westwood, which just opened last week. So really excited to be in a new space as well, which is really fun. They've done such a beautiful job creating that space. We're excited to be one of the first weddings in it.
Cool. What's that like?
So that's the Sixpence, the company that are the people who own that opened a new venue in Westfield that they've been building, and they just had their grand opening last Saturday. And so that client is getting married there on Sunday. It's a beautiful, European inspired sort of venue. It's gorgeous. They've put so much thought into all the details. So it's fun to be a part of new venues opening. So really looking forward to being there too.
Cool. How do you feel about Indianapolis and just the Indy area at large for what you do specifically versus, maybe other places?
Yeah, I love this market. I used to live in New York City and I was not a wedding planner when I lived there. Was a chef a million years ago and
Wow.
lived there, which is super fun. And I think this is a perfect size market. I've considered moving when I was younger and other things. And I'm like, India's a big enough city that we have some incredible opportunities and vendors and artists and people doing really neat things. But it's not so big like New York that you're swallowed up by it or that the scale is overwhelming. It still has, I know most of the vendors I get to work with every weekend. I know about their kids and their dogs or their families and things like that. So I feel like it's just this sweet spot of big enough. We have all these incredible people here, but not too big either that no one knows each other and that it feels impersonal.
And a lot of people, want to get married there. It's a lot of weddings are happening there, and both on the city scale of things, downtown, cool events, something like the Carmichael, and lots of
Yeah.
barns. And I'm sure someone like you has seen both ends of the spectrum. Can you give us a little more about what are the similarities? What are the differences?
Yeah, I've done it all in 15 years of being a wedding planner. We've done hundreds of weddings and we have done, actually last year we did the smallest wedding I've ever done, which was 8 people, but on a very grand scale for 8 people. And I have done a wedding for 660 people in a field in Whitestown on some property that a client owned. And we have just seen the gamut, and and we do a lot of cultural events too. So we do South Asian weddings. We've done weddings for clients from every country all over the world. And I love that each event is so unique. And really, it's one of my favorite parts about my job is that it's never the same twice. So even though I'm working at Hotel Carmichael multiple times this year, the weddings are so unique and different, and the clients are so different. So every wedding still feels really special and unique, whether we are sweaty and in a barn or at the Intercontinental or Hotel Carmichael. We work a ton at Newfield, Scottish Rite, Union Station, the Arts Garden, Conrad, lots of lovely spaces, Bottle Works, that have been around a long time, all the museums downtown. Indy has some really wonderful offerings. The north side has so many beautiful locations too. We work at a lot of Ritz Charles properties, Black Iris, these new Six Fences, new venue, the Westwood. So Indy has such a diverse market. Do you want to get in married in like a very rustic barn? We just did a wedding at Traders Point Creamery 2 weeks ago. Like truly like cows downstairs, very rustic, but still lovely, incredible food, beautiful scenery. Or do you want, a really classic Scottish Rite Cathedral ballroom wedding? Indy has all of it. So I think there's truly something for everyone and so many great vendors working in all of those spaces that you can have something exceptional, whatever your preference.
I think that's a great way of putting it. Like you said, somewhere like a New York won't have the barns, but maybe
No barns in New York City.
somewhere in Ohio might not have the cool buildings or the fancy overlooks or things like that. That it is cool that you can get both in Indy. So let's get a little more specific here. Let's talk entertainment and your experiences and things you've liked about people you've worked with, things that maybe left a bad taste in your mouth, and just generally what you look for when your clients will come to you and say, we're not really sure, or maybe they are sure. I guess I'll just stop there and let you take it from there.
Yeah, there are a fair amount of people who are like, I don't know, band or DJ, and they haven't quite decided. And there is coming online more and more in our market some like cool hybrids. Like DJ with a sax or DJ with a live drummer or some fun combinations like that.
Yeah.
The first time I ever had that was, oh gosh, 8 years ago at the Ritz Charles. And this client said, we went to this wedding in Chicago and our friends had like live musicians with a DJ. I was like, that sounds weird. I don't know. I was like, I don't know how that's going to work. I've never seen that. And it's hard to understand until you see it. And then you're like, oh, that's so cool and fun. And so again, there's things to love about both. A live band brings an energy and an atmosphere that you definitely can't get in any other way. But there are people who want to hear Bruno Mars and they want to hear, you know, they want to hear Taylor Swift or whatever that version is of that song that they want to hear. So I think there's a right fit for everybody in terms of which route we go. What I look for is professionalism in either regard. Whether it's a DJ or a band, there's things that take place in a wedding where you need great MC work and people to really cue formalities. And when that's probably my pet peeve, is when that's not done well and it's clunky or awkward and guests are like, what's happening? Why is it weirdly silent? What's going on? We can't hear. Or someone who has too much to say, I think also leaves a bad taste for people. There's that fine balance of engaging and fun, but not talking so much that everyone just completely ignores what's being said as well. So professionalism is at the top of what we're looking for, whether it's a band or a DJ. Engaging with the crowd, really reading the room. Same goes for band or DJ, someone who is feeling the energy, seeing what guests are responding to, and then adjusting accordingly. Is sets up for a great success of a really fun party, which is what everybody always wants, is guests to have a great time.
Isn't it amazing how many elements there really are that go into it that the average person never really comes to think about?
Oh yeah, there's a million ways for it to go wrong. So yes, absolutely. All those and there's little things that like drive, like some of those like little gaffes. I'm like, I might not land as much on clients, but I'm like, to me, I am noticing those little silences and those moments that we want it to be super polished and a really seamless experience. So that's at the top of our list when we are referring vendors, as well as people who are great to work with. You would think that is implicit, but there are a lot of people in entertainment that view weddings as like their concert. And I'm like, this is not a concert. The guests are here for these people who are getting married. And so the focus needs to be around the couple at all times and their preferences and the day being about them. And that's just not always the energy that's brought to the day. So we really like to work with partners who are super focused on making the client's day as good as possible and their experience really great, as opposed to showing up and being like, where's the green room? Where's my food? Which all of that matters too. Like all of that should be taken care of, but keeping the client experience at the forefront of what's the priority that day.
Well said. It makes a lot of sense. My background as, starting off just as a musician and then the last couple of years getting into the wedding space, dueling piano space, events, you do recognize a difference in those attitudes. And there's so much more than just how well you play the piano or how well you sing Sweet Caroline. There's a lot more to it. And all these points that all these things that you listed out, and you didn't even mention like be good at playing music.
I get that's like implicit, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, you have to be good at the skill you're hired for. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's that team player attitude, I think, just is truly what we look for in people who are great partners at weddings, because stuff happens and we need people who are like, yeah, that's not what I was supposed to do, but that's what's going to make this client's day great. So let's do that. We just want people who are on board to adjust and make for an incredible day for the client at the end of the day.
Sweet. So you said that you were a chef in New York, chefing it up.
Yes.
And what kind of culinary work were you doing?
Yeah. So about halfway through my time at Purdue, I was like, ooh, I don't want to do this job, but I just need to graduate. So I graduated early from Purdue and then went to culinary school in upstate New York and then worked for Danny Meyer in New York City at Union Square Cafe. He is widely known for Shake Shack now. When I worked for him, there was one Shake Shack in Madison Square Park, and now there's obviously thousands. But I worked in his fine dining restaurant there, and it was an incredible experience. His whole focus is on hospitality and taking care of people. And so I carry a lot of that with me. He has some incredible books, setting the table on how you treat guests and how you work in a service-based industry. And so I carry a lot of that with me to this day. But it was a very young, fun experience where, young in your early 20s, living in a big city, very exciting.
Yeah. So do you feel like while you were out there, something called out to you to want to get into events, or like how does one go from chef in New York to wedding planner in Indianapolis? And follow up to that, what would you say from what your vision was while you were maybe thinking about it while you were chefing of what you could do to now, these years later, what you are doing? I'd like to hear what positive impact you feel like you've made from that initial idea to now, all these years doing it.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a very unique way into wedding planning. So I moved home. I had a sick parent. So I moved home from New York City to be with family. And then by the time that all kind of resolved, I had been here long enough. It was like, well, my life was here. This is very much post recession. And I was kind of trying to figure out what to do and talking to a friend. And she, like many people who had a 4-year degree, had like 5 jobs because there was not one good one. So she was kind of piecing it together. And she'd started this wedding photography business. And she was like, you'd be a great wedding planner. Like your background in catering. I had bartended and worked a million weddings when I was, in culinary school in upstate New York. And I had worked in restaurants and things growing up. And I was like, okay, that's great. I have 0 other thoughts of something I'd like to pursue. I planned a dozen of her clients' weddings for free, immediately loved it, and have had paying clients ever since. I have this distinct memory of working in the kitchen in New York and being like, no one else here should ever talk to a guest. Like all of these people in this kitchen are not warm and fuzzy, are not customer service focused, are going to curse at someone, should not talk to anyone else. And I was like, but I love people and I like talking to guests. And the very first wedding I worked, it was this beautiful blend of client facing and working back of house logistics. And I was like, oh, I feel like I am using all of my skills to their fullest. I would always have described myself as a person who wanted to help other people. And I think I always thought that meant you had to be a nurse or a doctor or like work in the medical field. And I really feel so fortunate that I found this calling where I get to help people. I get to take a day that can be really stressful and overwhelming and make it better for people and take a lot of things off of their plate and ease the stress leading up to it and allow them to enjoy more time with their families and this day that's super important that they're going to remember forever. And so it was definitely sort of something I stumbled into. I was not like 5 years old being like, I want to be a wedding planner, but it is absolutely something I love and I'm passionate about. And I feel so fortunate that I get to have a job that I enjoy going to. And I, to this day, and all these years later. So I think that I get to see the tangible impact of my work all the time. You said, what's kind of the impact? And I get to see it. I get to see it in people when they hug me and thank me at the end of their wedding days, when their dads thank me in toasts, when they write me heartfelt thank you letters after their weddings of how much they appreciated what we did for them. It's also is really gratifying to have this job where you get to see an impact. Not all jobs do you have that, but I get to work really hard at something and then watch it all happen. And so it's very fulfilling.
I love that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming by today, Sarah. I'm going to see you at that event that you'll be hosting, and I'm really
Yeah.
excited about in May. So thanks for inviting me to that, and I'll see you then. Thanks for being on the podcast. It was great hearing everything you had to say, and I will talk to you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks a lot. Have a good one. Bye.
Later, Sarah. Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Eventful Endeavors, Secrets to Crafting the Perfect Celebration. We hope to have left you with some actionable ideas for your own event. If you like the show, please subscribe and definitely leave us a review. We read every comment. So until next time, happy planning and see you soon on Eventful Endeavors.